Thank you for waiting. We are starting our briefing of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, spokesman Viktoria, Kushnir, ATO spokesman Anatoliy Stelmakh, who's via Skype, and Vladyslav Seleznyov, acting spokesman of the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Viktoria, you're welcome. Good morning, esteemed journalists. The President of Ukraine, Petro Poroshenko, signed several laws which strengthen the responsibility of servicemen and mobilized the law of Ukraine on introducing amendments to the Criminal Code of Ukraine on enhancing responsibility for some military crimes was passed by the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine on the 20th of February 2015. That law provides for stricter criminal responsibility of servicemen for military crimes in the conditions of special period. In accordance with the law, the criminal responsibility strengthens for military crimes, first of all those which concern non-obeyance. When the person leaves the military unit or the place of service, for avoiding of military service, criminal inactivity of military authorities, and illegal use of the symbols of the Red Cross, Red Crystal, and so on. Also, there are amendments introduced into the laws on civil protection. The criminal code is added by the other additional Article 336. The law of Ukraine on the 5th of February 2015 on introducing amendments to some legislative acts of Ukraine on strengthening responsibility of servicemen specifies the framework of responsibility, and these changes clarify administrative responsibility of servicemen for violations. Pro-Russian and Russian mass media are trying to disseminate panic in Odessa region, making public not true information about non-proper organization on organizing defense of Odessa. The leadership of the Defense Ministry pays a lot of attention to the issue of enhancing defense capacity of Odessa and southern borders of Ukraine. The military of servicemen of the Armed Forces of Ukraine are protecting important objects round the clock in the land and in the sea. Besides, the work is going on restoring and support of technical readiness of the vessels, aircrafts, automobile and armor vehicles. In Ukrainian Navy, the system of management is being established in units and on the vessels. Thanks to that, and thanks to the actions of the citizens who are united into the crews of self-defense who patrol the streets and timely using the methods to detain the suspects in Odessa region, there is the control of a situation maintained from the beginning of 2015 to renew the defense capacity and to renew the armaments and military equipment. The following actions are made. 2,446 units of armaments and military vehicles are repaired. 114 units are supplied from the state companies to military units. These are 21 tanks Bulat, 50 tanks T-64V, 10 BTR-70, 8 units of BTR-4E armored personnel vehicles are supplied, 6 trucks, 20 armored vehicles Saxon, besides 8 new combined devices of the launch of false targets for aircrafts and helicopters are also supplied. Foreign states continue to support Ukrainian military and are sending humanitarian assistance. Now, we have received the assistance from the government of Australia. That assistance includes about 35,000 T-shirts for servicemen, about 18,000 some uniforms. During the last 3 months, the armed forces of Ukraine received as humanitarian assistance 2 batches of assistance from the Government of Canada and Ministry of Defense of Great Britain, the batch of assistance of the Ministry of National Defense of the Republic of Poland, which includes food products and military ammunition. In January, we received the batches of the assistance by the Navy from the Government of Canada, Government of Australia, Ministry of Interior of Slovak Republic, and Ministry of Defense of Great Britain. The Ministry of Defense of Ukraine during the ATO did a lot of work on improving the regulation on medical maintenance. The algorithm was developed on deploying the field medical points, mobile hospitals. Also, the new standard of individual medical kit is approved, which corresponds to the best international samples, and it has mechanical and chemical means to stop bleeding and other things. The Ministry of Defense, together with the fund Wings of Phoenix and the charity foundation Let's Save Life Together, started assembling the first 1,000 of individual medical kits of the new type. Also, the Department of Public Procurement has started the procedure of procurement of the medication for 57,000 of such sets. Together with volunteer organizations, the trainings on tactical medicine are organized, and that reduces the level of pre-hospital death compared to the first months of the ATO. These were the short results of the activities of the Ministry of Defense during the last 24 hours. Now I would like to invite the acting spokesman of the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Vladyslav Seleznyov, and via Skype we will hear Anatoliy Stelmakh, ATO spokesman. Good morning, Anatoly. What was happening during the last 24 hours, implementing the peaceful agreement? The enemy was in total maintaining the ceasefire regime. At the same time, some bans on the non-controlled by Ukraine territory continue shelling of our positions. Starting from 6 p.m. on the 3rd of March till 6 a.m. on the 4th of March, the terrorists were shelling at Opetna-Piski-Berezova. They were shelling at Avdiivka from artillery and from mortars at Vodyane. In Lugansk direction, Shastya was shelled at near Lebedinska, which is near Mariupol. Our positions were shelled at by sniper. Besides that, the drone of the enemy was registered above the settlements Krasnovka and Znamenivka. In total, starting from 6 p.m. yesterday till now, the terrorists 12 times were using their weapons against the forces of ATO. Ukrainian servicemen continues to reinforce the line of defense and are ready, getting ready to the second stage before relocation of artillery systems to the distance which was agreed on during the international agreements. Good morning, esteemed colleagues. Taking into account the big attention from Ukrainian society to the events that were happening starting from the 17th of February at the Baltseva, I am informing you about what was happening then during the planned operation on withdrawal of about 3,000 servicemen of ATO from the Baltseva. Ukraine lost 19 servicemen, 135 military received wounds of different degree of seriousness, and they are sent to medical establishments where they are provided qualified military medical assistance. 9 Ukrainian servicemen are now in detention to liberate these hostages. The armed forces of Ukraine are using all state and non-state institutions during the last week from the territories which are under the control of the militants. 81 bodies of dead people were transported. Now 19 bodies are identified. Their names in the nearest future will be on the website of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine at the address www.mil.gov.ua. The forensic specialists are involved into identifying the names of other dead people. As of today, there are 195 persons in detention. Now, the units which were executing tasks at the Debaltseva stronghold have partially arrived to renew their combat capacity, and the rest continue to execute their tasks at the previously prepared positions. In the nearest days, for the first time, the newly arrived servicemen of the battalion Aidar will make the military oath. The personnel of the unit headed by the acting commander Yevgen Ptashnik, with the assistance of the representatives of the General Staff of Armed Forces of Ukraine, executes the list of measures which are directed towards making the battalion Aidar corresponding to the statutory requirements. Despite all these organizational measures, the battalion continues to exercise its military tasks near Счастья, Станиця Луганська, Лисичанськ, Трьохізбинка, Золоте, Старобільськ, Сєвєродонецьк. The servicemen of Aidar battalion demonstrate high military spirit, patriotism, and are ready to execute the task on defense of integrity of the borders and territorial integrity of Ukraine. Mr. Stelmakh informed you about the situation during the 24 hours. Now I would like to offer you some of the data sector by sector. During the last 24 hours in Lugansk direction, 2 shellings of the positions of Ukrainian servicemen were registered, which are close to Счастья. The militants were twice shelling, first time from automatic grenade launcher. In the second case, they were shelling from firearms. The most difficult situation is near Donetsk, near Avdiivka, especially Marinka and Berezova. The militants 11 times were violating the ceasefire regime. Near Donetsk airport, and this is Opitne settlement, Visky and Vodyane, the militants 25 times were violating the ceasefire and were shelling at our positions using automatic grenade launchers, Zu-23-2 system, sniper weapons and mortars, as well as artillery. In Artemivsky direction, 6 times the militants were violating ceasefire. They were using mortars and grenade launches, and were shelling at the positions of our servicemen near Lugansk and Leninsk. In Mariupolski direction, we registered 3 shellings at the positions of anti-terrorist operations. The militants were using firearms and mortars. They were shelling at the positions near Shirokino. Thank you. Your questions. Could you please specify as to numbers of shellings? Because the previous speaker, Stelmakh, said there were just 12 shellings. Based on your statistical information, we understand it's more in accordance to the chief commandership of the center. During 24 hours, there were 47 shellings during the night, and that is what Stelmakh meant, there were 12 shellings. Could you tell us about what losses are? At 12:30, you will have official data. Now we have just operative information which is to be confirmed. Can you confirm the information that the militiaman shot dead the volunteer in the ATO zone? I cannot confirm that information. Unian, to clarify, Stelmakh mentioned that the ATO forces are getting ready for the second stage of relocating the artillery. And if I'm not mistaken, in the Minsk agreements, provide for the artillery to be withdrawn during 14 days. Do Ukrainian forces plan to withdraw it within 14 days, and what will be happening with the other side, because they are just imitating the withdrawal, how to act if they do not withdraw? And the second question, because there are numbers of shellings got reduced, can we say that the numbers of peaceful citizens on the other side of the territory are now trying to get to the territory controlled by Ukraine, that there are more such citizens? It's now safer for them to do so, because some of the volunteers mentioned that. So your first question, Ukraine is the pioneer in implementing Minsk agreements and execution of these agreements. ATO forces are executing the first stage of withdrawal of weaponry and heavy artillery. These are artillery systems of the caliber 100 millimeters and more. The Rapira guns and 100 millimeter caliber guns are being withdrawn. All that is monitored by the OSCE monitors, but at the same time we understand that we have to ensure the defense and protection of the sections of the territory. So we expect adequate actions from the representatives of the self-proclaimed LNR and DNR. If the conditions of the agreement are violated, then Ukrainian side will introduce corrections into the schedule of withdrawal of the equipment and the armament, and that is done to ensure the safety of the personnel who executes their duties at the front line, and also to ensure the safety and security of the peaceful citizens. As to your second question, the question related to movement of the citizens of Ukraine who reside on both sides of the delineation line, that is within the competence of the security service of Ukraine. As to the dynamic, whether the numbers of the people who are moving has increased or not compared to a few days before, this is the question which should be asked to the representatives of the security service of Ukraine. But I would like to mention that the ATO forces, first of all, are trying to ensure the safety and security of peaceful citizens who are located on the territory which are under the territories which are under the control of ATO forces. Recently, we will start the second stage of withdrawal. This will be 152 millimeter systems Akatsiya, artillery systems Akatsiya, and we expect that the militants will do the same. And clarification from Channel 5. I have a question on so-called humanitarian convoy that arrived to the territory of Ukraine from Russian Federation. Could you tell us what is known about this humanitarian convoy, where it goes, what does it have? Taking into account the fact that movement of humanitarian convoy moves on the territory which is under the control of the militants, all the details of the movement of that convoy is the information which is received but needs to be clarified and confirmed. As soon as we have the confirmed information on the movement of this convoy, we will inform you. Have a nice and quiet day. Take care. The next briefing of Anatoliy Stelmakh, Vladyslav Seleznyov will take place tomorrow at 9 o'clock. And in a couple of minutes, Natalia Bystra, head of the press service for Ukraine's emergency service.